Okay, this week's hands-on demo is about converting your server into a domain controller. Okay, so we need to make some tweaks to VirtualBox before we get started. So we need to shut down your guy. It can't be running to do this step. So what we need is an isolated network so that the network inside our VirtualBox can talk to other machines inside VirtualBox, but can't talk to any of your physical machines. And so in the language of VirtualBox, this is called a NAT network. Just what they call it. So first thing we need to do is go to File, Preferences, and then Network. And so you hit this little green button over here, one with the little plus sign, and it'll add something called a NAT network. And I usually accept the default name. Okay, that's what I do. Okay, so I've created me a NAT network. And then I go down to the actual honest-to-God guy, the server guy, and I hit Settings, and I go to Network, and I tell it, no longer is it going to be attached to NAT. I'm going to be attached to NAT Network. And it's going to go ahead and pick the only one we got, which is NAT Network. Okay, so I hit OK. So all I've basically done is I've moved my server from being completely isolated to be able to a network where it can share later on when we add another machine. Obviously, we're not adding another machine today, but we're prepping it so that it would work. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so now I need to boot my server up, and first thing we're going to do is just kind of record the network settings because we're going to need that information several times. And when I mean record this, I mean write it down because we're going to need it next week as well. So let's get this guy a-cranking. Okay. CIS4376. 22. Yay. Okie dokie. So we're up and running. So one of the things I'm going to do is that this pops up. I'm going to say yes, because this is a brand new network and I do want to share information across the network. I mean, again, we'd only have one machine, but we're going to have a second one soon. All right. Oh, I need some updates. Fine, I'll do that later. Now, I'm going to open a command prompt. I'm going to type a command called ipconfig /all. All right, this is going to tell me absolutely everything I need to know. All right, so the things I need you to write down is the IPv4 address. I need that guy. I need the subnet mask. I need the default gateway and the DNS servers. Okay, those are the four things: the address, the subnet mask, the default gateway, and the DNS servers. You're going to write all that down, aren't you? Okay, good. By the way, I'm not expecting these numbers to be identical on your machine, right? Particularly the DNS server guy. I mean, that happens to be the IP address of my router on my machine, you know, my physical router. And it may not be the same as yours, okay? So write all this stuff down. All right, so now we're going to tweak some network settings onto this guy. So I'm going to do a right click on Start and go to Network Connections. And I'm going to go directly to Ethernet, and then I'm going to go in here and say Change Adapter Options. Okay, so this brings up my Ethernet card. Okay, and so I'm going to do a right click on that to bring up some properties. So right click, Properties. And then we got a bunch of stuff. First thing I'm going to do is, not that this is absolutely required, but I'm going to turn off this thing that says Internet Protocol version 6. We don't actually need that. I mean, yes, in the real world it would be kind of handy, but in our little world, no. So all I do is just uncheck that guy. And then I want to go to the Internet Protocol version 4 and just select him. Don't change the check mark. Just select him and hit Properties. Boink. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this away. We're no longer going to be using the DHCP, Dynamic Host Control Protocol, which automatically sends out the proper numbers for like your IP address that you're using and all that. So I'm basically going to say, no, thank you. I want to manually type in some stuff. Okay, so what I need to do is type in the things that I just got. So my IP address for my machine is 10.0.2.15. The subnet mask, if you recall, was 255.255.0, and the default gateway, if you recall, the default gateway was 10.0.2.1. Okay, and then the preferred DNS server. Okay, so 192.168.1.1. All right, so those are the 4 numbers that you were supposed to have written down. Let me just check them and make sure I got them right. So 10.0.2.15, 255.255, alternate gateway, and then the DNS guy. Okay, I'm going to hit OK to save this guy. And hit the close. And I'm going to go, just for good measure, maybe this is not required, but just for good measure, I'm going to go ahead and do a reboot just to prove that I didn't screw things up. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go here and just say restart. Okay, we're back. And CIS4376. Okay. So every once in a while, for no particular reason that I can think of, it may actually come up and say, hey man, I have a problem here. It just takes time. So I'm basically just going to, fire up the browser and go someplace, see if it works. So I'm just going to go, I don't know, just wherever we go. In fact, why not? I'll go to mine. Yay! Okay, cool. So yes, everything still works, just like it's supposed to. Okay, so all we did was take away the DHCP thing and hard code these values. All right, that's one of the steps we kind of sort of need to do. All right, so now we're going to go in and we're going to add some roles to the server. So I'm going to do that from Server Manager. So I'll go to Server Manager. See this little dash bar thing across here? Basically, you have to wait until that thing finishes. Otherwise, it'll come up and say, hey, man, I'm busy. So add roles and features. Yep. Doing. And this is kind of like a beginning one. Okay, great. It is a role-based feature, so I'm going to hit next. And then I only have one server, so once again, I'm going to hit next. And then here's the list. There's 2 things we need to check off. There's a lot of things that are called Active Directory, so be very, very specific here. I want the second one. This is Active Directory Domain Services. Not every single one of those is the one we want. And then it says, here are the dependencies. And I go, yeah, I'll let you add all those features. And we also want this thing called DNS. And it's going to say, wait, I've got some dependencies. Yes, please do. Okay, so I've only clicked on 2 of these guys, the Active Directory Domain Services and DNS. In the real world, you probably want to do DHCP as well, but since we're kind of in this funky world with VirtualBox is providing DHCP services to me. So we could do it this way. I mean, seriously, we could go to VirtualBox and say, please don't provide DHCP services. Okay. And then we do it ourselves. But that doesn't actually match what's in the book. So in the book, they don't do that. So I'm trying to make it look the way we did in the book. Okay. So I'm going to hit next. And this is, hey man, what are the features you want? I don't want any more features. That's fine. And then it basically gives me some cool information. This is sort of like a checklist. It says, okay, you're getting ready to do this. And then it's kind of a things you need to know about on DNS, and then confirmation. I go, yeah, that's exactly what I want. All right, so I'm ready to hit the install button. Here we go. This doesn't take that long. Okay, so it finished, and so basically the only thing I have left is the close button. All right, that's what I'm going to do. And then I get a little yellow triangle over here saying, okay, you've done some stuff. You've added some roles, but you haven't configured them yet. And so next we have to do the post-deployment configuration thing. So you could just go directly over here, but I'm going to use a little guy here Click on it. It says, hey, post-deployment configuration. Do you want to promote this server to a domain controller? Yes, I do. That's exactly what we're doing today. So I'm going to click on this guy. And then it's going to say, okay, do you want to add this to an existing domain? I don't have a domain, so no. Do you want to add it to an existing forest? I don't have one of those. And so I need a brand new forest. Run, forest, run. And so the root domain guy. So I'm going to call mine. And please call it the same thing I do, all right? So CIS4376.local, just like that. Local is kind of a code word. It's not real. But you know how most are going to be like, kumquat.com or .edu or something like that. Local implies that I do not want to have this domain exposed to the outside world. It's a local domain only, and nobody from the internet is ever going to see this guy. So it's kind of a naming convention to call private domains .local. Okay, so I'm creating a new forest. I'm going to click the button. And then it says the domain functioning level. Now, quite frankly, this doesn't matter. I could change this because this is for like if I have older machines, if I have a Windows Server 2016 that I haven't upgraded yet. So I'm going to leave it alone, okay? It's fine. And then the directory services restore mode. This one is complicated. Let me explain. If you had a problem and you had to go back and do a backup and restore operation, there's a separate password for restoring the Active Directory database, if you want to call it that. And so it has a separate one. And this is weird because this password never changes and it doesn't appear anywhere else, anywhere in the system. So pick something that you're going to remember, okay, and write it down. I'm going to use CIS4376 2022. Now see, there's no real username they're asking for here. It's just a password, okay? Kind of sort of makes sense? Good. I'm going to hit next. Then it says, hey man, you got this DNS server, but it's not exposed to the outside world. So do you want to go ahead and do something about that? And I go, no. So, for this purposes, we are not expecting anyone from the internet to use our DNS services to be able to locate a machine. That's not happening. So once again, this is an isolated private domain. So I'm just going to skip over this part and basically say next. And then the NetBIOS name, if you wait long enough, it will figure it out on its own. Just give it a second. Or if you're impatient, you can type it. So yeah, it picked most appropriately CIS4376. So great. Next. Then the next one's going to be, where are the directories? Where should the directories go? And certainly I am not going to make any changes to that. Jeez. This is where the Active Directory files and databases and stuff go. Leave that alone. And then it comes up and says, okay, here's what we're getting ready to do. Is everything okay? And I go, I certainly hope so, because I don't. And then hit the button. And it'll go through and say, verifying the prerequisites. You've got everything. For example, did you do like we talked about, where did you make it a static IP address? Did you, all that stuff? And now it is going to take a couple of things. It's going to have some thing about, there's some settings you could change. I'm not going to mess with any of those, okay? And I'm going to hit install. And by the way, there's a cool little thing that says, hey, when we're done here, we're going to restart. Like, yes, indeed we are. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So a little thing about, hey man, we're getting ready to knock you off. Yeah, that's fine. Now, I will warn you that this first time the machine boots up with Active Directory turned on, it's going to take a really, really long time to boot. A lot longer than normal, but that is perfectly okay. And that's just the way it is. Hey, we're coming up on the 15-minute mark, so you guys know how this works.